She must decide if their connection was fate or manipulation. Tariq makes a final move, a televised interview to rewrite the entire woven world origin story, forcing Amara to decide: defend her truth publicly or walk away forever. Now the story in full. Before then, bestie, please take a time and support us by giving us a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the notification button for more of this story. Thank you. So, grab your popcorn and relax as we dive into this powerful story. Amara Mensah was used to being overlooked. Whether it was at investor meetings where her male counterparts talked over her, or at networking events where people saw her skin color and guessed she worked in logistics, not tech, Amara had learned to play small just to stay in the room. She boarded the Emirates flight from JFK to Dubai with one goal: close funding for her app, Woven World, or admit defeat. Months of pitching, sleepless nights, and pawning her mother's jewelry for development costs had left her exhausted. The app, which connected rural African textile weavers to global designers, had potential, everyone said that. But potential didn't pay for server costs or keep her team from quitting. Seat 14A. She read the ticket, barely looking, her head heavy with anxiety. But the rows blurred in the rush of boarding passengers, and the plush, too good to be economy for called to her like a siren. Without thinking, she slid into the luxurious leather seat, dropped her tote under the one in front of her, and sighed in relief. She had no idea her life was about to change. "Excuse me." The voice was smooth, but carried an edge, like someone who was used to being obeyed. Amara opened her eyes and saw him, tall, Middle Eastern or South Asian, with piercing dark eyes and a tailored navy suit that whispered bespoke. His jawline looked like it had been carved with intention, and there was something in his expression, controlled, calm, but calculating, that made her heart skip a beat. "You're in my seat." Amara's stomach dropped. "Oh my God. I'm so sorry." She grabbed her boarding pass and stared at it, heat flooding her face. 14A, she mumbled. "Not 4A. God, I'm an idiot." He raised an eyebrow, then smiled, just slightly. "No, not an idiot. Tired maybe? I've been up for 48 hours. Startup life," she said, trying to laugh it off. He didn't move. "I'll go," she said quickly, reaching for her bag. But instead of insisting, he did something unexpected. He nodded toward 14A in economy. "I'll take your seat." Amara blinked. "Wait, what?" He shrugged, casual. "I've sat worse." Something about him felt dangerous, not in a predatory way, but in the way that made her realize this man didn't do anything without a reason. "You don't have to. I want to." He held out a hand. "Zaid." She took it, still flustered. "Amara." The moment stretched longer than necessary. For the first hour of the flight, she felt like she was trespassing in someone else's world. But as the crew served champagne and warm towels, and the hum of the engines dulled her anxiety, she relaxed. She caught glimpses of Zaid just a few rows back, reading something, always watching. He didn't look angry about the seat switch. Later, while brushing her teeth in the first-class lavatory, she emerged to find him waiting. "You still owe me," he said. "For the seat?" "No. For interrupting my peace and turning it into curiosity." She laughed. "That's not my fault." "It is now." By the end of the flight, they had talked for 4 hours. Business, childhoods, disappointments. He didn't offer up much, but asked piercing questions about her business, her app, her why. Something about his gaze made her forget to filter. She told him how her father died before he ever saw her graduate, how her mother sold fabrics in Accra, and how she'd grown up surrounded by color, stories, and struggle. When the plane landed, Zaid handed her a card. No company name, no title, just a geometric logo and a number. "If your app is as good as your mind," he said, "call me." She held the card like it was a live wire. Back at her hotel in Dubai, Amara Googled him, and her heart stopped. Zaid Al-Rahman, CEO of Al-Rahman Capital. Worth $3.4 billion. Reclusive, media shy, rumored to have pulled out of a $500 million deal last year because the founder didn't have heart. What the hell had she just walked into? Perfect. Here's the continuation. Chapter 2. The Card. Amara sat cross-legged on the edge of the hotel bed, staring at the minimalist business card like it was cursed. The thick linen paper, the clean black embossing, the simple, almost arrogant way it just said, Zaid, and a number. No company, no title, no pretense. That's what unnerved her most. He didn't need to say who he was, because the whole world already knew. Zaid Al-Rahman, billionaire, venture capitalist, kingmaker. And Shed just spent 9 hours talking to him like he was a bored tourist. Shed told him about the disastrous investor call where someone called her aggressively passionate. Shed admitted her app barely had 6 months of runway left. Shed told him how her team in Ghana hand-coded the platform on a second-hand server. Raw, unfiltered truth. And he hadn't laughed. He had listened. But now, silence. She had his number. He didn't have hers. Power play. Smart. Cold. Classic VC move. She opened WhatsApp. Typed, "Hi, this is Amara from the flight." Then deleted it. Typed it again. Deleted it. Her thumb hovered over the send button. That was when her phone rang. Not a message. Not a call. But a notification. Urgent. Internal alert. Access blocked. Her email. Her startup dashboard. Everything. She logged in again. Access denied. Her co-founder, Tariq, had locked her out. 3 hours earlier, Nairobi HQ. Tariq slammed the laptop shut as soon as the file finished uploading. He wasn't going to wait around while Amara flew across continents playing savior. He had built the back end. He had sourced the early users. She was the dreamer, but he was the realist. He knew a big investor was coming. Zaid Al-Rahman. The guy had been sniffing around her social media. Too dangerous to leave things in Amara's hands. If anyone was going to run Woven World, it would be him. Not some wide-eyed idealist obsessed with artisan dye methods. He clicked a button. Transfer admin privileges. Yes. Back in Dubai. Amara's hands trembled. She called Tariq. Straight to voicemail. She tried again. And again. Nothing. She opened LinkedIn. Tariq's profile had been updated just hours ago. Co-founder vCEO Woven World. CEO? Her heart thundered in her chest. She paced the room, breath shallow. Betrayal coated her throat like poison. He was hijacking everything. Her mother's fabrics. Her team's dreams. Her vision. She dropped the phone on the bed. Numb. Then picked it up and, without thinking, opened her WhatsApp. Typed, "Zaid, it's Amara. I need your help." Pause. She hit send. Seconds passed. Then, "Zaid, I was wondering how long it would take. Tell me everything." Zaid didn't respond with words. He responded with coordinates. An address in the Dubai Marina. A time. 7 p.m. sharp. No explanation. Amara stared at the message. She knew enough about power to recognize it when she saw it. This wasn't a man who asked. This was a man who decided. 7:04 p.m., Marina Bay Tower. Amara stepped into the penthouse like she didn't belong. And maybe she didn't. The scent of oud lingered in the air, mingling with the sound of piano music playing softly from hidden speakers. White marble floors. Walls of glass. The skyline shimmered like a promise. Zaid stood by the window, sleeves rolled up, shirt unbuttoned at the collar. Casual, but every bit the predator the world warned her about. "You're late," he said without turning. "I had a breakdown. Emotionally. Then I took a taxi." He glanced over his shoulder. There was the hint of a smile. "Drink? I think I need something stronger than that," she muttered. He poured something amber into a glass and handed it to her. She sipped. "Smooth. Dangerous." "Now," he said, sitting across from her. "Tell me what your co-founder did." She laid it out. Everything. Tariq's betrayal. The account lockout. The updated CEO title. The investors she had lined up who would now be emailing him. "I built this thing," she whispered, voice cracking. "He's going to strip it down and sell the parts. And no one will care because he fits the mold. Male. Tech reasonable." Zaid leaned back. "You're angry. Good. But I don't invest in anger." She met his gaze. "Then what do you invest in?" "Winners." A silence settled between them. Thick. Testing. I have someone looking into your code, he added. And your platform. You were sloppy with some security protocols. He exploited that. Clever but weak. Amara's face flushed. It wasn't sloppiness. I built that system in a one-room studio in Accra with a dying generator and 3 engineers who coded through power cuts. Zaid's eyes flickered. There it is. There what? Fire. Amara returned to her hotel at midnight, buzzing with adrenaline. Zaid had made her an offer. His legal team would begin the process of reclaiming her company. Quietly, surgically. But it came with terms. Control. Shed remained the face, the founder, but his firm would hold majority equity for a year. After that, they'd renegotiate. It was steep, but maybe the only path left. She barely slept. At 9 a.m., she was woken by a knock on her door. A woman stood there, mid-40s, South African accent, confident posture, a flash of gold at her wrist. Ms. Mensa Mkaya Dutwa, managing partner at Helix Ventures. We'd like to speak with you before you accept any deals. Amara blinked. How did you? We have eyes everywhere, Kaya said, stepping inside like she owned the place. Kaya didn't waste time. We've been watching your platform since your Nairobi launch. Your co-founder made contact 2 days ago. He thinks we're funding him. He's wrong. Amara's stomach twisted. Kaya sat on the edge of the armchair. We want you, not Tariq. Not your code. You. Amara frowned. Zaid's already offered. Kaya waved that away. Zaid plays to own. We play to scale. You'll keep 51%. Well, clean up the legal mess, file an injunction against Tariq, and double your reach in under 6 months. Amara stared at her. And all I have to do, she said slowly, is walk away from Zaid. Kaya smiled. You're a smart woman, Amara. I think you already know he doesn't share power. Will Amara take Kaya's deal for independence, or accept Zaid's offer and risk becoming a pawn in his empire? And what is Zaid really after, her company or something deeper? Meanwhile, Tariq is preparing a devastating counterattack that could unravel everything. Amara stared out at the Burj Khalifa through the hotel window, Kaya's business card in one hand and Zaid's in the other. 2 names, 2 futures. One heart already cracking under pressure. She had barely eaten, barely slept, and her chest buzzed like a phone left on silent. She should have been thrilled, 2 powerful investors vying for her. But this wasn't just about capital. It was about trust, and power, and survival. 11:47 a.m., the decision call. She called Zaid first. I need to see you, she said. You're hesitating. His voice was unreadable. Considering. Options. Silence. Then, Kaya found you. So you do have eyes everywhere, she said, voice dry. She's clever. She also has a history of throwing her founders to the wolves the moment they stop performing. Check her portfolio, 3 exits, all without the original CEOs. Amara's stomach dropped. Come to my office. We'll talk. I don't like being forced. You're not, he said. But if you're looking for a partner, Amara, someone who doesn't flinch when it gets ugly. I'm the devil, you know. The call ended. Meanwhile, Nairobi. Tariq stood in front of a camera crew, doing what he did best. Lying with charm. Woven World is more than a platform, he said. It's a movement. I'm honored to be leading the company into its next phase. Behind him, the fake office setup looked clean and modern. A borrowed co-working space. A fake team hired for the press. The real plan? Secure a fast deal with a South African textile conglomerate. Rebrand the platform as a logistics company. Cut out the artisans. Double the margins. Screw the story. Screw the culture. He smiled for the camera, already drafting the press release. New CEO rescues failing startup. 2:12 p.m., Dubai, Zaid's office. Zaid's headquarters were everything Amara expected. Sleek, minimalist, and intimidating. His assistant, a woman with ice-blonde hair and a sharper gaze than a blade, guided her through glass corridors to a private conference room overlooking the marina. Zaid was already there, scrolling through something on his tablet. He didn't stand. So, she took a breath. Kaya offered me a deal. 51% equity. Total founder control. Clean legal sweep. Zaid nodded. Unreadable. She's offering respect, Amara added. No. She's offering leverage. You keep control now. But when things go south and they will shall step in. Strip you down. Call it a pivot. I've seen it. Then what are you offering? Amara challenged. Zaid looked up. His eyes were fire. I'm offering war. She flinched. We file for legal recovery. Sue Tariq for breach. I'll bankroll your litigation, fund your rebuild, and put my name behind yours. Which means no one ignores you again. Not in Africa. Not in Silicon Valley. Not anywhere. She swallowed. But I give up control. Temporarily. In 1 year, you buy me out or I step back. We put it in writing. She hesitated. Then Zaid stood and walked toward her, slow and steady. You want to change the world, Amara? You need someone who's not afraid to burn a few kingdoms. They were inches apart now. You want respect? He murmured. Earn it, or take it. 4 p.m., her choice. Kaya waited at a rooftop bar, sipping a hibiscus martini. Amara arrived, wind in her hair, heels echoing like gunfire. She sat down across from Kaya. I've made my decision, Amara said. Kaya raised an eyebrow. And? Amara smiled tight. Certain. I'm going with the devil I know. Zaid unleashes a high-stakes legal battle against Tariq that turns dirty fast. Amara is dragged into public scrutiny, facing media attacks and industry doubt. A secret from Zaid's past resurfaces, one that could destroy everything they've built. And a growing attraction between Amara and Zaid threatens to complicate the most important deal of her life. It started with a cease and desist letter. Then came the lawsuit. Within 24 hours, Woven World trended on Twitter, not for its mission, but for the drama behind the scenes. Hashtag startup scandal. Hashtag co-founder chaos. Hashtag who owns Woven. Some praised Amara for standing her ground. Others called her ungrateful, difficult, entitled. The media spun her into either a tragic heroine or a villain with too much ambition. But behind the noise, the war had begun. Zaid's strategy, precision v. pressure. Zaid didn't do noise. He did pressure. His team filed injunctions in 4 countries, freezing Woven World's international assets, blocking Tariq from signing any new investment deals, and challenging his legal claim to the CEO title. They even traced the IP addresses used in the code hijack. It was aggressive. It was fast. And it was Zaid's way of saying, I protect what's mine. Amara? Targeted. But Amara paid the price. Her personal inbox was flooded with hate mail. Investors pulled out. Journalists ambushed her in hotel lobbies. One blog published photos of her mother's market stall in Accra, calling it a poverty porn origin story. She couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. She went numb, until the night she finally broke. 1:33 a.m., Zaid's apartment. She showed up unannounced, hair undone, hoodie over her head, hands shaking. Zaid opened the door, shirtless, eyes heavy with sleep, but concern sharp and immediate. I can't do this, she whispered. He stepped aside. You're already doing it. She walked in, collapsed onto his couch and covered her face. I'm not built for this kind of war. Zaid sat beside her, not touching, just present. Everyone thinks I'm a fraud, like I stole my own company. You didn't steal it. You bled for it. I didn't even go to Stanford, she whispered, eyes glistening. Zaid chuckled softly. Neither did I. I dropped out of NYU. She looked at him, startled. You? He nodded. Education is only a shortcut when the world's already betting on you. They sat in silence. Then Amara said, Why are you helping me? Really? Zaid's expression changed, softened, then hardened again. Because I see you, and I know what it's like to be underestimated until it's too late. His eyes darkened, something flickering there, a past she didn't know. And because, he added quietly, you remind me of someone I couldn't save, a secret revealed. 2 days later, the tabloids exploded with a bombshell. Zaid Al-Rahman under scrutiny. Is this billionaire too close to a founder in crisis? A leaked photo, Amara asleep on Zaid's couch. Blurred, grainy, but unmistakable. The article didn't hold back, suggesting favoritism, conflict of interest, even romance. The media fed on it like sharks. Zaid's board issued a quiet warning. Be careful. Amara confronted him that night. You told me no one would touch me with your name behind me. That's not protection. That's a target. Zaid didn't deny it. Power always draws fire. And us? She said. Whatever this thing is between us, it complicates everything. His gaze was steady. Then let's not pretend it's nothing. He stepped closer. I've risked a lot for you, Amara. Her breath caught. And if I fall, I'll catch you. Tariq plays his final, most brutal card, leaking a confidential email that could destroy Amara's credibility forever. Zaid's painful backstory is finally revealed, and Amara must decide if she can trust a man haunted by loss. One unexpected betrayal changes everything, just as the company is on the verge of resurrection. Amara woke to 100 missed calls. WhatsApp, email, Twitter, even her old Facebook. The subject line that chilled her blood was the same on every message. Leaked email suggests Amara was willing to sell artisan data for profit. Her mouth went dry as she opened the post. It was a screenshot, an old internal company email. In it, Amara had floated an idea to Tariq. If we can anonymize buyer trends from designer orders, that's potentially sellable metadata. Could give us a revenue stream until we're sustainable. There it was. One throwaway idea, twisted into a betrayal. The headlines didn't mention the second email, the one she sent hours later. Actually, scrap that. Doesn't sit right. We're not selling our people. But no one cared about that. The lie had been told, and the damage was instant. She was scheduled to speak on a tech ethics panel at a Dubai conference that day. She didn't show. She couldn't. Her chest felt like it was collapsing. Her hands shook. She called her mother in Accra, only to hear, people are saying you sold out the village, Amara. Even Auntie Afwis refusing to weave. It shattered her. When she got to Zaid's office, she was ice cold and trembling. You said you had lawyers, spin teams, a fortress. So where were they today? Zaid didn't flinch. It's being handled. It's me they're dragging, Zaid. Not you. Me. My mother's stall is empty now because people think I'm a sellout. He moved closer. We can fix it. You can't fix character assassination with money, she snapped. His voice lowered. But you can with truth. She stared at him. He pulled out a file from his desk and slid it across the table. Amara opened it. Her original email, the second one, was there. Forensic analysis. Timestamp verification. Server logs. Proof that the leak was edited. Her jaw clenched. He forged it. Zaid nodded. He's getting desperate. He knows he's losing. Later that night, they sat in his penthouse again. Amara quiet, haunted. Zaid looking out over the dark water like it held his past. Finally, he said it. I had a brother once. She looked over, startled. You never talk about your family. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Because they were the reason I built everything. And the reason I nearly lost it all. He told her about his younger brother, Farid. A brilliant coder. Idealistic, just like Amara. They built a startup together years ago. A social platform that connected protesters during the Arab Spring without needing Wi-Fi. But it got attention. Dangerous attention. Farid was arrested under false pretenses in a crackdown. Zaid tried to negotiate, bribe, beg. Nothing worked. Farid died in custody. Zaid never forgave the silence. So he built wealth, bought influence. Enough to never be powerless again. I see pieces of him in you, he said softly. And I won't lose you too. Tears stung her eyes. But not just for him. For herself. You don't have to save me, Zaid. I know, he said. But I want to. The next day, a quiet message came through from Kaya Dutoit. We didn't leak the email. But you should know. Zaid didn't stop one of our early offers to Tariq. He encouraged it before he met you. Before he knew who you really were. Amara sat frozen. She called Kaya. You're saying Zaid helped Tariq before he helped me? Yes, Kaya said calmly. He didn't think Woven World would survive. You were a statistical long shot. Passion project, not a portfolio play. Until you sat in his seat. Click. The call ended. Amara confronts Zaid with the betrayal, and he doesn't deny it. She must decide if their connection was fate or manipulation. Tariq makes a final move. A televised interview to rewrite the entire Woven World origin story, forcing Amara to decide. Defend her truth publicly, or walk away forever. Truth in shadows. Amara didn't storm into Zaid's penthouse. She walked. Every step was deliberate, measured, like a soldier entering enemy territory with the map already burned. Zaid opened the door, already reading her face. You found out, he said simply. So it's true. Her voice was barely above a whisper. You encouraged Tariq. You nearly funded him. You saw my company, my mission, me, and still pushed him forward. He didn't deny it. Before the flight, he said evenly. You were just another founder with a fragile deck and no traction. Amara's hands clenched. But you knew what I was building. I knew what Tariq pitched, he corrected. He sold it like a data aggregator for global textile trends. He scrubbed the cultural mission. It looked scalable, slick. And I was what? The romantic version? The backup plan? Zaid walked past her, silent for a long moment. No, he said. You were the version I didn't think existed. The one who built with purpose, not polish. I didn't see it until you sat in my seat. She laughed, bitter. So I had to literally take a man's seat to be noticed. Zaid turned. You took more than the seat, Amara. You took my certainty. You made me believe again. She shook her head, stepping back. You don't get to rewrite this into poetry, Zaid. You made a business decision. Now I have to make one too. He didn't stop her as she left. But his eyes, those impossible, unreadable eyes, followed her all the way to the door. 2 days later, Tariq appeared on Bloom 360, one of the most influential global business networks. He wore a crisp white shirt and that smug calm she remembered too well. Amara's version of Woven World was idealistic. But I brought structure. I brought scalability. I turned a dream into a company. She walked away because she didn't want to make hard choices. The interviewer asked if Shed contributed to the platform's core. She had vision, but I had execution. Let's be honest, no major platform survives on vibes and village stories. The jab was surgical and effective. Amara's inbox exploded with press requests, comments, judgments, even some "you should be grateful" messages. Her mother called again. If you want to come home, we'll hide you. Amara didn't cry this time. She didn't scream. She packed a single dress, walked to the conference center downtown, and waited. The Global Ethical Tech Summit was in its final hour. Zaid's firm was a lead sponsor. He was scheduled to speak. But at the last minute, someone took his place. Amara. She stepped onto the stage in a tailored navy dress, not unlike Zaid's favorite color, and looked out at 1,000 blinking eyes. The moderator looked shocked. Amara Mensah? You're not on the program. No, she said into the mic. But I have something to say. The room went dead silent. Her speech. I built Woven World in a 2-room apartment with no funding, no AC, and no mentorship. My team coded during blackouts. My mother wove fabric that paid for our first server. I was told I was too emotional, too raw, too African. I had people rewrite my pitch deck so it sounded less ethnic. A ripple of discomfort moved through the audience. But hey, race the truth. The world doesn't reward authenticity until it's profitable. And even then, they'll try to sell it back to you with your name cut off the label. She took a breath. Tariq didn't build Woven World. He betrayed it. And if you believe sanitized metrics over lived reality, then you're part of the problem. A hush fell. But I'm not here to beg. I'm here to build. With or without applause. She walked off stage as the audience slowly rose to their feet. A standing ovation. Zaid was waiting in the hallway. He said nothing, just held out his hand. She didn't take it. She walked past him. And for the first time since they met, Zaid Al-Rahman had no power over her. Amara's speech went viral. Clips exploded across TikTok and LinkedIn. Influencers reposted it. Academics quoted it. The phrase, "Don't cut off my name" from the label became a rallying cry for underrepresented founders everywhere. For the first time, she wasn't just a name behind a product. She was a voice. Zaid's silence. Zaid didn't call, didn't text, didn't send flowers or encrypted apologies. And that hurt more than she expected. Amara kept working, kept rebuilding her platform. Slowly, quietly, and without the spotlight. But when she walked into meetings now, people stood. They asked questions. They listened. She had power again. Not because someone handed it to her, because she took it back. Still, part of her wondered, why did Zaid disappear? She got her answer a week later. The gesture. Kaya Dutoit called her. "Did you see what your devil just did?" Amara frowned. Zaid? He just resigned from his board. What? Kaya sounded almost impressed. Gave up control of 2 of his companies, citing personal conflict of interest. He's out millions, and headlines are calling him unstable. Amara stared at the news feed in shock. There it was. Al-Rahman steps down amid scandal over Woven World involvement. From investor to martyr? Kaya paused. He tanked his own seat at the table. For you. The letter. That night, Amara returned to her hotel to find a black envelope tucked under her door. No name, just the Woven World logo hand-drawn. Inside was a note in Zaid's handwriting. "You were never the backup plan. You were the only plan I regret not seeing clearly from the beginning. I didn't build empires to own people, I did it to protect them. But somewhere along the way, I became the thing I was fighting against. You reminded me how to fight like a human again. I'll never ask you to trust me, but I will earn it every day if you'll let me." Attached was a signed document, a complete transfer of his Woven World equity stake. To Amara, with no strings, no conditions, just her name, fully restored to ownership. Unexpected ally Tariq's sister. 2 days later, Amara received a message request from an unfamiliar account. "You don't know me, but I'm Tariq's sister, and I have something you need to see." Amara hesitated, then clicked accept. The woman Nadira appeared on screen, tired eyes, steely calm. "I tried to stop him," she said. "He's been doing this for years. Hijacking ideas, taking over teams, rewriting stories." She shared archived emails. Past business partners. Pattern. Worse, Nadira had a recording. A phone call between Tariq and a fake investor. Tariq. "She's emotional. She'll self-destruct. I just have to push her hard enough." Voice. "And if she doesn't? Tariq. Then he'll burn it down with her inside." Amara's skin crawled. Nadira spoke, firm. "I want you to bury him, not because of revenge, because he keeps doing this to women who don't have your platform." Amara closed her laptop. Eyes burning. A fire had been lit. This wasn't just personal anymore. Power versus principle. Love tested by legacy. The cost of representation. What happens after the dream comes true. Setting Geneva, Switzerland 1 year later. Amara stood beneath the crystal chandeliers of the UN Global Development Forum, speaking to a room filled with presidents, billionaires, and tech giants. Her foundation, the Woven Future Initiative, was now one of the most influential in Africa. She was the face of ethical entrepreneurship, a global icon, and she was exhausted. After the applause died down, she made her way through the crowd. Every conversation sounded the same. "Let's talk venture round 2. How do we scale this to Latin America? We're looking for a woman like you, marketable, sharp, African enough." The same compliments, the same careful control. When she finally reached the lobby, her eyes caught Zaid's, waiting by the car, scrolling through his phone, flanked by security. They were still together, still strong, but something between them felt like glass. Shiny, whole, but starting to crack. Later that night, Amara sat on their hotel balcony, barefoot, sipping tea. Zaid walked out, tossing his tie onto a chair. "I got a call today," he said. "The Crown Group wants us both on their next innovation board. It's legacy stuff, Old money. Major seat at the global table. Amara stared out at the moonlit lake. They were the same ones who greenlit those offshore factories that displaced 3 Ghanaian villages last year. Zaid sighed. They've pivoted. No, they've rebranded. There's a difference. He sat beside her, quieter now. You're starting to see enemies everywhere. She looked at him. No, I'm just realizing not all battles are worth winning if the cost is your name. He reached for her hand. She let him take it. But inside, she was wondering, is this the man I fell in love with? Or the one I warned myself about? Just as she was closing her laptop that night, a message pinged. Subject: urgent, Woven World metadata leak. Attached: a database dump. Customer records. Artisan data. Someone had leaked it. And the sender? Nadira, Tariq's sister. Her message was short. This wasn't me. But someone wants to destroy what you've built. Again. And this time it's coming from inside. The beginning of collapse. Amara's office in Nairobi was silent except for the sharp clicks of her keyboard and the low hum of the overhead fan. Outside, the sun beat down on the dusty street, but inside, the mood was cold. On her screen, thousands of rows of stolen data blinked back at her. Emails, order histories, even payment logs connected to rural cooperatives. The leak wasn't just about Woven World's brand. It endangered real people, people who trusted her. She slammed the lid of her laptop shut and whispered, God. Kaya Dutoit stood near the window, arms crossed. If this gets picked up by the BBC or Al Jazeera before we respond, it's over. People will think you exploited them, like all the others. Amara's throat tightened. We didn't. We've always been transparent. It doesn't matter, Kaya snapped. It's about perception now. You're not the underdog anymore, Amara. You're the institution. IT traced the breach to an encrypted internal login. No foreign hacks. No outside brute force. Someone on the inside had accessed the master server from Woven World's Ghana office. Someone with admin-level clearance. Only 3 people had that kind of access. Amara, Kaya, and Yusuf. Amara's heart dropped. Yusuf had been with her since the early beta stage. Quiet, loyal, brilliant. A second brain. A brother. She FaceTimed him instantly. He answered, wide-eyed. Amara? I was just about to. She cut him off. Where were you last night between midnight and 2 a.m. Ghana time? He blinked. Still here at the office. Why? You accessed the metadata archive. No, I didn't. She stared him down. It's on record. From your IP. And someone tried to route it through a VPN, but not well enough. He shook his head. Amara, listen. Click. She hung up. Her voice trembled when she told Kaya, pull everything. If he's compromised, we need to shut him out now. She returned to their shared apartment at 1 a.m. Zaid was still awake, reading on the balcony, a whiskey glass sweating beside him. He looked up. How bad is it? She Saturday, the breach is real. Internal. I think it's Yusuf. Zaid nodded slowly. They'll call someone. Quiet cleanup. Press won't get it. No. She shook her head. We don't silence this. You want to make it public? He asked, stunned. We're in the middle of a global expansion. You're weeks away from landing at Davos. I don't care. He leaned forward. But I do. You think you can walk into those rooms and still preach justice if your own house is on fire? Her voice cracked. I won't lie for optics. He exhaled. Then maybe we shouldn't walk into those rooms together anymore. Silence fell like winter between them. The next morning, Amara sat at a private cafe in Kigali, trying to breathe. Then a smooth, confident voice said behind her, you still take your tea strong, no sugar. Just like the truth. She turned. Eli Mahoro, the African futurist who'd once tried to buy Woven World years ago. Brilliant, political, untouchable. He sat across from her uninvited and smiled. I heard about your data leak, he said. Tough break. But don't worry, your story isn't over. I'm not here to make a deal, she said coldly. No, but I am. He leaned in. What if I told you I'm building something new? Pan-African. Decentralized. Secure. no gatekeepers, and I need someone who knows how to turn raw soil into silk. Amara raised a brow. What are you offering? Not capital, not branding, not protection. He smiled. I'm offering you freedom. Here we go. The pressure deepens, loyalties are tested, and Amara faces her most personal decision yet. Part 2, Chapter 3, Two Roads, One Fire. A battle of visions. They met on neutral ground, an empty gallery in Nairobi's creative district, where sunlight streamed through tall glass panels and everything smelled like dust, paint, and ambition. Amara stood between them. Zaid, sharp suit, precise posture, restrained power. Eli, loose shirt, unshaven, a pulse of energy like he was always 2 steps ahead of the world. You want her to be a symbol, Eli said, tone razor sharp. Clean, controlled, boardroom perfect, the face of palatable progress. And you, Zaid shot back, want to use her to justify your chaos, decentralize everything, even the truth. Amara raised a hand. Enough. Both men fell silent. I'm not a symbol. I'm not a pawn. And I don't need you 2 drawing lines around me. She looked at Zaid. You once said you'd never rewrite my story, but lately all you do is try to edit it. Then at Eli. And you want to burn the old world, but I've spent years building something worth preserving. She turned to leave. Neither followed. The truth about Yusuf. That night, a message came through encrypted channels. Not from Yusuf, from Nadira. You were wrong. Attached. Footage from the Ghana office. Security cam. Timestamped. Yusuf working late. Alone. Never touching the server. Never accessing the files. But someone else did. Kaya. The clip showed her entering the office 2 hours later. Swiping in with Yusuf's stolen card. Accessing the metadata files. Leaving undetected. Amara's chest tightened. Kaya had been her strategist, her confidant, her fireproof mirror. And all along, she had been selling Woven World's internal metrics to Crown Group. The same legacy investor Zaid was lobbying Amara to join. A second clip followed. Kaya. On a video call. With Zaid. The confrontation. The air in their apartment was thick with the smell of betrayal when Amara walked in. Zaid was at the kitchen counter, sipping his 3rd espresso of the night. I know, he said without turning. You saw the footage. How long have you known? He finally looked at her. 3 weeks. I was trying to fix it before it reached you. You hid it. You protected her. You played politics with my company. No, he said. I played politics with ours. Her silence was nuclear. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to spiral. You've been stretched thin, Amara. And you thought what? She whispered. That ID break? That ID fold like paper? Or that ID get in the way of your golden ticket to the Crown Group? His face hardened. You're angry. I get it. But I've sacrificed too. She laughed bitterly. You didn't sacrifice. You managed me. He stepped closer, almost begging. I did it for us. She shook her head. You don't get to say us when you no longer see me. The decision. Days passed. Amara went quiet. Publicly, she released a statement. The breach had been investigated, no user harm confirmed, and an internal team member had been dismissed. No names, no scandal. But privately, she met Eli again. You've seen what happens when you let yourself be managed, he said. Come build with me. No filters, no gatekeepers. Africa first. Woman-led. She thought of everything Shed built with Zaid. But also everything Shed survived. She looked Eli in the eye. I'm in. Here we go. The pressure deepens, loyalties are tested, and Amara faces her most personal decision yet. A battle of visions. They met on neutral ground, an empty gallery in Nairobi's creative district, where sunlight streamed through tall glass panels and everything smelled like dust, paint, and ambition. Amara stood between them. Zaid, sharp suit, precise posture, restrained power. Eli, loose shirt, unshaven, a pulse of energy like he was always 2 steps ahead of the world. You want her to be a symbol, Eli said, tone razor sharp. Clean, controlled, boardroom perfect, the face of palatable progress. And you, Zaid shot back, want to use her to justify your chaos. Decentralize everything, even the truth. Amara raised a hand. Enough. Both men fell silent. I'm not a symbol. I'm not a pawn. And I don't need you two drawing lines around me. She looked at Zaid. You once said you'd never rewrite my story, but lately all you do is try to edit it. Then at Eli. And you want to burn the old world. But I've spent years building something worth preserving. She turned to leave. Neither followed. The truth about Yusuf. That night, a message came through encrypted channels. Not from Yusuf, from Nadira. You were wrong. Attached. Footage from the Ghana office. Security cam. Timestamped. Yusuf working late. Alone. Never touching the server. Never accessing the files. But someone else did. Kaya. The clip showed her entering the office 2 hours later. Swiping in with Yusuf's stolen card. Accessing the metadata files. Leaving undetected. Amara's chest tightened. Kaya had been her strategist, her confidant, her fireproof mirror. And all along, she had been selling Woven World's internal metrics to Crown Group. The same legacy investor Zaid was lobbying Amara to join. A second clip followed. Kaya. On a video call. With Zaid. The confrontation. The air in their apartment was thick with the smell of betrayal when Amara walked in. Zaid was at the kitchen counter, sipping his third espresso of the night. I know, he said without turning. You saw the footage. How long have you known? He finally looked at her. 3 weeks. I was trying to fix it before it reached you. You hid it. You protected her. You played politics with my company. No, he said. I played politics with ours. Her silence was nuclear. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to spiral. You've been stretched thin, Amara. And you thought what? She whispered. That ID break? That ID fold like paper? Or that ID get in the way of your golden ticket to the Crown Group? His face hardened. You're angry. I get it. But I've sacrificed too. She laughed bitterly. You didn't sacrifice. You managed me. He stepped closer, almost begging. I did it for us. She shook her head. You don't get to say us when you no longer see me. The decision. Days passed. Amara went quiet. Publicly, she released a statement. The breach had been investigated, no user harm confirmed, and an internal team member had been dismissed. No names, no scandal. But privately, she met Eli again. You've seen what happens when you let yourself be managed, he said. Come build with me. No filters, no gatekeepers. Africa first. Woman-led. She thought of everything Shed built with Zaid. But also everything Shed survived. She looked Eli in the eye. I'm in. The announcement. The auditorium was filled beyond capacity. Journalists, influencers, critics, and supporters packed shoulder to shoulder. The Woven World logo shimmered behind Amara, but her eyes stayed steady on the cameras in front of her. She wore no jewelry, no branding, just a white linen dress and her mother's woven gold earrings, symbols of her roots. She took a breath. 3 years ago, I built Woven World with a dream, a platform that honored tradition, culture, and the people too often ignored by innovation. But dreams evolve, and so must I. Today, I am stepping down as CEO of Woven World. Effective immediately. Gasps. Phones raised. Flashes exploded. This is not failure. This is liberation. The next generation of African tech leadership must be free from compromise. From boardrooms built without us. From partnerships that feel like cages made of gold. And then, in 1 week, I will unveil a new platform. One that isn't built for us, but by us. She walked off stage to thunderous applause and chaos. Zaid's reaction. Zaid watched the broadcast from his penthouse in Singapore, the glass of whiskey untouched beside him. Kaya stood in the corner, tense. She just blew up everything. The investors are pulling. The Crown Group wants to know if we'll issue a counterstatement. Zaid didn't answer. He stared at the screen as Amara's face faded to black. Then, slowly, he whispered, She's going to change the world. Kaya scoffed. She's going to burn it down. He turned to her. No. You did. He walked past her, into his office and locked the door. For hours he stared at a blank message draft. To Amara Mensah. Subject: I'm sorry. I was wrong. Let me help. Let me come back. Let me love you without condition. But he never sent it. The rise of Nyota. A week later in Lagos, Amara launched Nyota. No VC backing. No corporate board. Just a founding team of 5 women, 8 African countries represented, and a tech stack written in clean, open source code. It was raw, revolutionary, loud, wild, decentralized. The first version crashed on day 1. But by day 3, over 200,000 artisans had signed up. The press called it the rebellion of the century. Eli raised his glass to her on the rooftop of the Nyota hub. You did it, he said. She stared at the stars. Not yet, but I'm free now. He leaned in slower this time, testing the air between them, but she turned away gently. Not yet, she said. My heart is still under construction. Twist. The new betrayal. 3 weeks later, a whistleblower email landed in Amara's inbox. Encrypted. No sender. The subject line: Check Ellis registration contract. She opened the attached document. Her breath caught. Eli had quietly registered Nyota's IP under a private holding firm in Mauritius, owned solely by him. Not shared. Not decentralized. Not hers. Her hands shook. She had jumped from a burning ship onto a raft, and now it was sinking. A quiet betrayal. Amara confronted Eli in the Nyota Lagos hub. Same rooftop where they'd toasted success, but now the sky felt heavier. She dropped the printed registration documents on the table between them. I trusted you, she said. I built this with you. Eli looked at the paper, then back at her. Calm, unreadable. It was a precaution. Fallback. We needed a legal structure to protect it from outside sabotage. So you made yourself sole owner? It was temporary. No, Eli. It was calculated. He exhaled, running a hand through his curls. You've been hurt before, I get it. But this paranoia? ITLL destroy everything. Amara took a step back, eyes blazing. I'm not paranoid. I'm done being played. He reached out gently. Don't walk away. Not again. Let me fix this. She stared at his hand for a long moment, then turned and walked inside. Zaid returned to Nairobi unannounced. No security. No press. He waited outside Amara's flat at sunrise, holding a paper bag with chapati and spiced tea, her comfort food after long nights. When she opened the door, she froze. His eyes were tired, but honest. I heard about Eli, he said. She didn't let him in. Why are you really here? He held up the bag. Because no one brings you breakfast when you're the woman everyone wants to use. Silence stretched between them. Then, I'm not here to take anything, he added. I just came to say I'm sorry, and I miss the woman who once stole my seat on a plane and changed everything I thought I knew about the world. Her throat tightened. That woman's been through hell. I know. And I'd give anything to unbreak what I broke. A tear slid down her cheek, but she didn't wipe it. She let it fall. I don't need you to fix me, she whispered. But maybe. I don't want to be alone either. The next day, Amara's legal team filed a claim to dissolve Ellis holding rights to Nyota. A clause, buried in fine print, gave her a way out if she could prove unilateral ownership wasn't disclosed to co-founders. Eli fought back publicly, accused her of turning on the revolution for personal pride. The media exploded. Half the world saw her as a heroine. Half called her ungrateful. Zaid stood by her silently. No press, no drama, just presence. He told her, let them scream. You don't owe anyone your silence anymore. On the morning of the court hearing, Amara sat alone in the Nyota server room. Dozens of devices hummed around her, each one carrying stories, art, transactions from rural women who'd built their lives through her vision. She thought about everything: her naivete with Zaid, her faith in Eli, her vow to never let power silence her again. She stood, walked into the court, and won. Ownership returned to the collective. IP decentralized. Eli forced to step down. Nyota was hers again, truly. But more than that, it belonged to everyone. Later, on the balcony of a modest new apartment, Amara sat barefoot beside Zaid. She was quiet. "I'm not the woman you met on that plane," she said softly. "I know," he said, sipping tea. "You're better." She smiled, just barely. "I don't know what this is between us now. I don't know where it's going." He reached for her hand. "No pressure. No timelines. Just as we are." A long pause. Then she whispered, "Stay." And for once, in a world built on shifting power and vanishing truth, that one word felt like the only thing that was real. 3 years later, the world had changed. So had she. Nyota was no longer just a platform. It was a movement. Over 2.3 million artisans across 27 countries now used it. The word decentralization had become a rallying cry in African tech policy. And Amara Mensah had become something she never expected. A household name, interviews, panels, TED stages, university lectures. Some called her the anti-colonial Elon Musk. Others called her reckless. She refused both titles. She still lived in a simple home in Kilimani, Nairobi. She still cooked her own food. She still whispered her mother's prayers at night. But even simplicity felt performative now. She was too known to ever be anonymous again. Zaid had stepped away from the spotlight. After his father passed, he inherited the family's industrial conglomerate, then quietly began divesting from fossil fuels. They were together now, yes, but it wasn't the love they once had. It was something quieter, like a storm that had passed, leaving a still lake behind. They were rebuilding, but neither dared call it peace. It arrived on cream stationery with a golden seal. Pan-African Union Inaugural Assembly. Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, November 2nd. Keynote invitation, Amara Mensah. Theme, the future of sovereign technology. She read it 3 times before showing Zaid. He raised a brow. "So they're finally calling you to the table." "They want me to speak," she said. "But I think they want to use me." "Of course they do," he said. "That's what power does." She frowned. "Should I go?" He leaned in. "Do you want to influence the system or outgrow it?" That night, she couldn't sleep. Her phone buzzed. Private message. Anonymous sender. Just one line. "If you take that seat, they will own your voice." Attached, a photo. Grainy. Surveillance style. Amara. Sitting with a foreign ambassador 2 years ago. Taken without her knowledge. And underneath it, a timestamp and location. They were watching her. A week later, Amara flew to Addis. In the crowd waiting outside the assembly gates. Protesters waving "tech is colonialism" signs. Others chanting her name like a prayer. Inside, she walked past security and locked eyes with Kaya, standing at the end of the corridor, wearing a delegate badge, smiling. Addis Ababa's Pan-African Assembly Hall was grand, glass domes, gold trim, whisper-quiet hallways lined with flags from 54 nations. But as Amara entered the secured chamber, all she felt was pressure. Kaya stood by the coffee station, calmly pouring herself tea. Amara froze. She hadn't seen her since the day Shed exposed her corporate betrayal. "I thought I burned that bridge," Amara said quietly. Kaya looked over, smirked. "Funny thing about fire. Some of us walk through it." She handed Amara a badge. Kaya N. Jerry, Senior Advisor, Continental Intelligence Coalition. "You're working for them now?" Amara's voice was sharp. Kaya tilted her head. "I'm protecting us. Because whether you know it or not, they're already inside your house." She slid a small flash drive across the table. "Woven World, Nyota, even your offline payment backups, they've all been compromised. Someone's been mining metadata, location behavior, biometric trends." Amara's heart pounded. "Who?" Kaya sipped her tea. "I don't know exactly, but the program's codename is Sandglass, and your name is flagged in every node." Later that afternoon, in a private suite guarded by armed officers, Amara met with Prime Minister Adebayo of Nigeria and President Tekel of Ethiopia. "We want you to lead the new Ministry of Digital Sovereignty," Tekel said, clasping his hands. "It would oversee data rights, digital infrastructure, and AI deployment across the continent, Adebayo added, and give our people independence from Western tech chokeholds. It was a position no civilian had ever been offered. Came with unprecedented power. But it would mean public office, permanent base in Addis, letting others run Nyota. She asked for 48 hours. Back in Nairobi, Zaid paced as she recounted the offer. You already know what I'm going to say, he said. That I shouldn't do it? That they're not inviting you. They're inviting your brand, your following, your moral currency. Amara ran a hand over her face. But if I don't step in, someone else will. Someone without the same compass. Zaid's voice softened. I love how you carry the world. But Amara, the starting to crush your spine. The next morning, it happened. Hashtag Amara Unmasked began trending globally. An email, dated from 2 years ago, was leaked from her early days building Nyota. It showed Amara agreeing to test a prototype of location-based data modeling in 3 rural villages, without full consent forms. Headlines exploded. Amara the data queen? Benevolent or dangerous? She did what she accused others of. Kaya called. This wasn't from us. Zaid turned off his phone. They're going to twist this until you break. But Amara stood still in the center of the chaos. Because she remembered that email. And she remembered why she sent it. She just never thought it would come back as a noose. The Pan-African Digital Ethics Tribunal convened in an ancient university hall in Dakar. Ivy climbed the stone walls outside. Inside, silence fell like a gavel. Amara entered to a sea of stares. Every seat was filled, ministers, journalists, youth leaders, rival founders. The world had come not to watch, but to judge. The prosecutor's voice echoed. Miss Mensah, did you or did you not authorize early data collection in pilot villages without obtaining signed, fully informed consent from each participant? Amara's voice didn't waver. I did. I made that decision. And I regret the way I made it. She explained the context. The urgency, the tight funding, the belief that it was harmless because no personal data was stored. Her intent had been innovation. Her failure had been hubris. But they weren't interested in intent. They wanted atonement. Then they brought her in Mama Deka, a widowed weaver from a remote village in Senegal. Her face was worn, but her eyes sharp as ever. She took the stand slowly, and in hushed Wolof, gave her story. A translator echoed her words. They told us it was a market. They never said they were tracking us. My daughter got sick. We didn't know why her phone was buzzing every hour. We smashed it with a stone. The room sat in stunned silence. Mama Deka turned to Amara. I believed in your dream, but dreams built on silence still become prisons. Amara's hands clenched in her lap. 1,000 speeches dissolved in her throat. She stood, walked to Mama Deka, and, voice-breaking, said, You are right. I broke trust. I came with maps but didn't ask for directions. I am sorry. The tribunal allowed it. Meanwhile, in Nairobi, Zaid sat in a dim office with Kaya. Had been digging for days. The leak hadn't come from the tribunal. Not from Nyota. Not from any of Amara's political enemies. It had come from Ericsson, a European tech lobbying firm with heavy stakes in 3 failing African platforms that Nyota had disrupted. Kaya blinked at the names. You're saying this wasn't about justice. It was economic sabotage. Zaid nodded. They weaponized her mistake. They want to gut her influence. Kaya sighed. And she's walking into it alone. After 3 days of testimony and cross-examination, the tribunal delivered its decision. Amara would not be criminally charged, but she would be barred from holding any public tech governance role for 5 years. Her bid to lead the Ministry of Digital Sovereignty. Over. And worse, her reputation was split in half. To some, she was a humbled hero. To others, a fallen fraud. She returned to Nairobi quietly, no cameras. Zaid met her at the gate. She fell into his arms without a word. That night, Amara sat alone in her study. A candle flickered beside her. She held a document, a resignation letter, prepared, signed, dated. If submitted, she would step away from Nyota. Forever. She could walk away from the noise, the weight, the war. But on her desk lay a message from a young coder in Malawi. I joined Nyota because I saw you fail and stand. That gave me permission to try. Amara closed her eyes. She tore the letter in half. Back at Nyota's Nairobi headquarters, the boardroom once filled with celebration now pulsed with tension. 10 members, 6 countries. Half had once backed Amara without question. Now they watched her like she was a PR liability waiting to implode. We're grateful for your transparency, said Awadayera, Nyota's new board chair, cool and poised. But we can't deny the platform's value is dropping. Sponsors are nervous. I built this from a single seed, Amara said, measured. You think I don't feel every crack in the branches? Then you understand why we're asking you to consider a 6-month sabbatical. Amara's jaw tightened. Voluntary? For now. Zaid stood beside her, silent, observing. Amara gathered her things. If I step away, she said, voice like cut stone. It won't be because you asked. It will be because I need to build something none of you are brave enough to touch. She left without looking back. Meanwhile, in a basement near Muthaiga, Kaya worked off-grid with Zaid and 2 ethical hackers. They traced Arizon's data poisoning campaign across 5 countries. They found fabricated NGO reports, influenced journalist coverage, microtransactions sent to community leaders to steer them away from Nyota, and then a smoking gun, a covert internal memo, time-stamped, from Arizon's Nairobi office. If Mensa remains operational, local infrastructure control will be lost. Leak her past, escalate community distrust, and trigger regulatory burnout. Goal: discredit by Q4. Zaid stared at the screen. We publish this and we paint a target on all our backs. Kaya nodded. Then let's not publish. Amara, who had just walked in, said quietly, we infiltrate. They called it Project Mirror. Kaya would reach out to sympathetic developers inside Arison. Zaid would bankroll the operation through shell donations. Amara would go off-grid, stepping out of public view, to build a counter-network of decentralized, community-owned data hubs, impossible to exploit or sabotage. A digital resistance, invisible but growing. They'd seeded across 5 countries under fake company names. Like folklore passed from hand to hand. It would take time. It would mean Amara disappearing. But it would mean freedom. 2 weeks later, a press release announced Amara's sabbatical and well-being retreat. The world speculated. Burnout, shame, breakdown. But on a dusty road outside Kampala, a motorbike pulled up to a quiet rural clinic. A woman in a hijab stepped off, face hidden behind sunglasses, carrying only a tablet and a battered phone. She checked in under the name Ama Diop. Inside the clinic, a server, solar-powered, unmarked, Node 1 mirror. And from there, her voice would rise again. Not through headlines, but through the hands of people whose stories no one could erase. A cracked empire. 2 months after Project Mirror launched its first node, the cracks began to show. Arizon's quarterly reports leaked. 37% client loss in West Africa. A massive EU ethics probe triggered by whistleblower footage. 2 high-ranking execs resigned within days. In tech circles, the term digital colonialism was finally being spoken without irony. Amara's silence had become her greatest weapon. From Nairobi to Gaborone, nodes whispered through the grid, blooming like night jasmine, each one autonomous, each one encrypted. But someone was listening. At 2:14 a.m., Zaid received the text. K pulled. Not safe. Burn everything. Kaya had vanished. The day before, Shed left their Johannesburg safehouse after noticing a child's toy with a camera lens glued inside it. Surveillance grade. Military tier. She texted one final time. Tele. It wasn't from Arison. The breach came from inside Mirror. And then she was gone. Node 4 went dark in Togo. Node 7 collapsed in Sierra Leone. A leak had begun from within. Amara sat alone in a dimly lit storeroom in northern Ghana, poring over logs, timestamps, IP trails. It led her to one person, Sefiu Makori, once a trusted coder from her early Nyota days. recruited into Mirror 6 weeks ago. Always quiet, always loyal, or so she thought. She met him in an abandoned art studio in Kumasi. No cameras, no devices. "I know it was you," she said calmly. He didn't deny it. "They offered my brother a scholarship. My mother a kidney transplant. How do you fight that, Amara?" She stared at him, breath tight. "By remembering you're not alone." He looked broken. He pulled a flash drive from his jacket. "I copied the full list of infiltrated nodes. Only you can fix this. Why give this to me now?" He met her eyes. "Because I believed in you before they taught me not to." Back in Dubai, Zaid stood in a glass office tower, facing the head of a global AI consortium. She slid a contract across the table. "Well, fund the rebuilding of Mirror. Quietly, fully decentralized. No questions asked." Zaid's fingers hovered over the paper. "And in return?" he asked. "You sit on the board. You shape the next phase of the network." It sounded like everything he wanted. A legacy beyond his father's empire. But the woman leaned in and added, "And one more thing. Amara must never know we're behind it." At 3:47 a.m., across the remnants of the Mirror network, every active node flickered. A message blinked into life on their terminals. "You cannot kill what moves without a name. We are not your product. We are not your pipeline. We are the code between the cracks." AM. Then it vanished. But one line remained in ghost text, visible only in the metadata. "One more betrayal, and I go public." In a smoky club basement in Casablanca, Amara met the one person she never thought she'd need. Delphine Roux, a rogue former cybersecurity journalist turned blackmail broker. Delphine held a small encrypted device, shaped like a music player. Inside it, the coordinates and identities of every single Mirror node, across 11 countries. "I don't want money," Delphine said. "I want a story. Your story, told raw. No edits." "If I refuse?" Amara asked. "I release the data. All of it. By next Thursday." Amara's heart pounded. If Delphine did that, Mirror would die. Everyone would know where to shut it down. Governments, corporations, mercenaries. "Why me?" Amara whispered. Delphine smiled. "Because your silence scares them more than your noise." Meanwhile, in Geneva, Zaid sat in a glass boardroom with the global AI consortium. The contract was ready. The funds would arrive in 24 hours. Had already signed his name. But every time he saw it, his name without hers, something curdled. The clause still stood. Amara must never know. That night, he took a helicopter to a remote village in Rwanda, where Mirror Node 12 pulsed steadily in the back of a women's shelter. He stood in the doorway watching 3 teenage girls learning to code in silence. And he realized, if he took credit for rebuilding this, he would never forgive himself. The board called an emergency meeting. Kaya, still off-grid but sending encrypted dispatches, warned Amara. "Nyota's core servers have been infiltrated. You have one option left." Amara returned to Nairobi in disguise, entered her old office through the server tunnels, stood in front of the root node, and triggered a controlled purge. Not a wipe, a transfer. She rerouted what mattered, not user data but freedom protocols, to hidden Mirror nodes around the continent. Then she let Nyota burn. News headlines exploded. Nyota crashes overnight, deliberate sabotage suspected. Amara Mensah in hiding again after tech meltdown. Was Nyota a Trojan horse all along? She read them from a dusty train platform in Mozambique. She felt grief, then peace. 2 days later, Zaid found her. They met in an abandoned orchard. He handed her a packet. "Proof of the consortium's offer," he said. "I almost took it. I didn't." She studied his face. "Why didn't you?" He shrugged, eyes red. "Because I didn't want to be a king if it meant you couldn't be the storm." Amara looked out across the dry grass. "You think they'll ever let us rebuild from the underground?" He touched her hand. "They won't let us. So we'll do it anyway."